Hi, everyone. I am Charlene Briner. I am the Interim Director of Minnesota's brand new Office of Cannabis Management. And we are really delighted that so many of you could join us this evening for the second implementation update that we have done. A lot of progress has been made to both stand up the office and really get underway with rulemaking. So we thought it was time for us to share with you some of the work that we're doing. What we have done is create a structure of implementation experts. So we've created what we're calling cross-agency implementation teams, and those teams are focused on very specific work streams. We are working very closely with Minnesota's 11 tribes on both tribal compacting and other issues to a state reference lab. We think it's very important for the state to play a role in establishing lab standards and making sure that we have that capacity as part of a holistic approach to launching our market. So altogether, we have a 23-member implementation team representing experts from multiple agencies in the enterprise. We have 25 Office of Medical Cannabis staff who are working on regulation of both the hemp-derived cannabinoid products and the medical program in Minnesota, and also providing critical support for transition and planning. And then we've also got 2 Department of Agriculture inspectors who are adding some inspection capacity to the work that the Department of Health as they are out in the field working with businesses to ensure product safety and quality. So we've also executed 2 significant contracts. We will have more contracting opportunities to come in the future weeks and months as we continue to ramp up our work. But right now, Carasoft Technology Group is taking the lead to develop our business application and licensing system. We've also engaged in a contract with Cannabis Public Policy Consulting. They are a national consulting firm that has worked with states and tribal nations and cities to set up cannabis regulatory operations. As I mentioned, our HR implementation team is working hard to draft positions and help us begin to staff up. So just you can see on the screen some of the key positions we have hired. We continue to work to fill the social equity position. The Cannabis Advisory Council coordinators, and obviously of interest to folks who are really thinking about how we are going to be approaching our grants program for the Can Renew grants, the community reinvestment grants. We want to make sure to get a person on board who really has perspective on how to develop and administer an equity-centered grants program for those community reinvestment grants. So you can see that we are making a lot of progress. We are hoping to be field testing that system by late spring so that we can ensure that when we actually go live with applications that it is working, that it is able to handle the volume, and that we can make sure that that system is a fully functional tool for all the things that we will need. We can project a pretty robust demand for cannabis in Minnesota based on findings that detail consumer use. But you can certainly go to the OCM website to read the study at any time. We also, in our legislative report, what we really want to do is strengthen the social equity goals of the bill. We want to make some supply chain improvements to streamline that process from the point of cultivation. We want to strengthen the already robust social equity goals in the bill. We've identified a potential for a licensing bottleneck that we want to address through a slight change in the order of operations in the licensing process. We want to include a mechanism for temporary licenses, particularly for social equity applicants. And when I say temporary licenses, I mean early licenses. So as soon as this summer, depending on if the legislature decides to take us up on that. And then we want to update the timeline to transition parts of the Office of Medical Cannabis to OCM as early as this summer to help us align our efforts and build some capacity. So that really summarizes the 5 changes that we want to make. We believe that a streamlined supply chain will be the result, enhanced outcomes for social equity, a more efficient licensing process, and proactive measures for market launch.
Thank you, Charlene. Good evening, everyone. As Charlene mentioned, I am the rulemaking attorney at the Department of Human Services, but I've been working in an advisory capacity as a rulemaking coordinator with the Office of Cannabis Management since June. So taking a quick look here at the overall projected timeline for rulemaking, The bulk of the rulemaking process is collecting feedback from the public and identified subject matter experts, consulting with other state agencies as required by the legislation, and putting that all together into the actual rule language. So our projected goal, again, for the rules going into effect is early 2025. In total, for all the surveys so far, we have received over 1,000 responses containing great information from interested community members, advocates, and partners in this work. So just to give you a little snapshot here of what the surveys have looked like and their topics and response rates. Survey number 1 collected feedback about cultivation, processing, and manufacturing, which garnered 751 responses, 484 of which were specifically about cultivation. And I want to just make clear that even though surveys 1 through 5 have closed, this is not meant to limit the ability to provide input. We are currently putting pen to paper, or maybe more accurately, fingers to keyboard, and drafting language for environmental standards and cultivation. And experts at the Pollution Control Agency are actually currently reviewing a very preliminary draft related to environmental standards. As I noted earlier, we are expecting to host listening sessions likely sometime this spring when we have drafts of the rules to elicit informal comments and feedback. We are currently preparing for that by getting draft rule language in place and planning what those public input sessions will look like. And indeed, the more input we can gather, the more needs and anticipated outcomes we can consider. So I encourage you to submit your feedback. And with that, I will turn it over to Merone.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. My name is Merone Melekin. I am the Director of Outreach and Engagement here at the Office of Cannabis Management. The OCM website, I'll say, is a great tool just for being able to find information about our office, ways that you can engage with us. We have a newsletter. So if you are not already registered for it, you can go and head over to our website and get signed up. We send regular information about just up-to-date information about our office, and it's a great way to just stay informed. And with that, I am handing it over to Char.
Okay, so we have given you a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time. There's a lot to digest. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to be posting this on both our website and we'll be linking to it. So you'll be able to view the presentation in its entirety or review anything that you might have missed while we're moving so quickly. I just wanted to spend a minute really outlining what's next. We have reopened the search for the permanent OCM director. So I will continue in my interim role until such time as a permanent leader is identified. Our goal is to have somebody named by mid to end of May. The governor's office is the lead for government to government negotiations and engagement around, and specifically for tribal compacting for any sort of cannabis businesses operating outside of tribal lands. We are going to be convening this week a working group with local governments, with cities and counties, to develop some model ordinances that cities can use. They think about what sort of business regulations they want to adopt in their municipalities. And so OCM is charged with leading that work and coming up with those model ordinances. And we're going to be convening that working group as early as this, or we are convening it this week. And then we're going to continue to finalize and refine our legislative proposals in anticipation of the legislature starting on February 12th. We know that it is a short session. We hope to move quickly through the legislative session and position ourselves both for, as I said, a successful market launch and sustained and effective regulation over time. All in service of what we are optimistic about establishing, which is a successful, accessible, equitable, and sustainable cannabis industry in Minnesota. We look forward to crossing paths with you again soon. Have a good evening, everyone.